Welcome in, Josh. It is our third Super Bowl together on this show.
Yep, a rematch. 11 years in the making. Seahawks, Patriots. Will the 1 yard line be the kryptonite of the Seahawks again?
I don't know. It could be. As always, make sure you check us out on all social medias. We are on X, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, and of course, we are streaming live on YouTube as well as Josh Ungar's YouTube channel at Unger to the Max. We did write an article that went up earlier today on our host site, VoltageLiveMedia.com, where me, you, along with our two other members of the sports department, Christian Eden and Sean Fitzgerald, made our predictions for this game. So make sure you go check that out. Josh, I think you're more enthusiastic about this game more so than I am personally. So I'm going to let you start. Let's start breaking down this game between the Patriots and Seahawks.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who was picking this to be the Super Bowl. I know you didn't even think the Patriots were going to make the playoffs, if I remember
Or
correctly.
Seattle. I did not have either of these two teams in the playoffs, as we saw in the intro of last week's show.
Yes. I was much higher on the Patriots than you. I was much higher on the Seahawks than you.
Well, you had the Patriots as a playoff team. I had them just missing. So you were maybe a little bit higher on New England. You were definitely way higher on Seattle. I'm going to clarify that.
Yes. But nonetheless, one of the most interesting storylines in this game is the fact that go back to week 8, Browns-Patriots. New England ended up romping Cleveland 32-13. But if you remember, in that game, Myles Garrett by himself sacked Drake May 5 times. And for the most part, he's been able to stay upright through these playoffs. But now you got Lawrence coming at you. You got Ernest Jones coming at you. There's somebody else notable along that defensive line.
Leonard Williams.
Leonard Williams, thank you. This is the best defense that New England has faced in this playoff run.
Are you sure about that? I don't know. That Texans defense is pretty good. That Bronco defense is pretty good.
Yes, Houston has a ferocious defense. Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, Derek Stingley. I got you. Denver has a really good defense in their own right. Pat Surtain, Barron, Franklin, who should be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year.
Who? Do you mean Nick Bonito?
Yes. I don't know where Franklin came from, but yes.
Were you thinking about the receiver, Franklin?
Yes. My bad. So, Nick Bonito. Yes, that's who I meant. Sorry. But they're all good pieces, but when you have Ernest Jones, when you've got Ben Weatherspoon on the back end, you've got a lot of the other guys along that side of the ball. It's just like Seattle, I think, has a lot more pieces to work with defensively.
So, I don't know. That same Seahawks defense just got carved up by Matthew Stafford in the NFC Championship game. I don't know how vaunted really they truly are. I actually think out of the entire defenses that New England played in the playoffs, Seattle might be the worst defense because the Chargers were the third best in scoring defense this year without a lot of names on them. The Texans defense, I thought, was an all-time great defense and make the Super Bowl. And I thought Denver's defense was really elite. I think Seattle's is very, very good. Now, I do think Seattle overcomes their talent by the coaching with Mike McDonald. Listen, I think this game's going to go two different ways. I think you're right that if the Seattle Seahawks defense gets after New England's offensive line early, and I disagree with you that Drake May has stayed upright. He has not stayed upright in these playoffs. I believe he's taken 4 sacks against the Chargers, took another 4 sacks against Houston. There was a couple other sacks against Denver. He's been knocked around a lot, especially on the left side of that offensive line. Will Campbell, the rookie left tackle out of LSU, Pro Football Focus has him as the worst offensive lineman graded in this entire playoff. And to me, that is the story of this game. If New England's offensive line can protect Drake May, and we will know very early on, just like last year's Super Bowl between yours truly and the Kansas City Chiefs, where my Eagles defensive line very early, Milton Williams, who's now a member of the Patriots, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Nolan Smith, they got after Patrick Mahomes. If Seattle's defense can get after Drake May, this may be a rout by halftime. But if they do not, I think the odds in Vegas sort of believe what I believe is going to happen in this game, which is a slow start by both teams, sort of a feel out defensive battle early. The two quarterbacks will get hot late. I think it is a low scoring game that is very similar to the game these two teams played 11 years ago.
When the final score was 28-24.
Yes. Now, I think it is going to be a little bit less scoring than that. The over-under is at 45.5. I think that this game's going to go in about a 3-point game at halftime. And I think what's going to happen is this is going to be a tie game late. Drake May is going to get the ball. He's going to drive down the field. He's going to get New England in field goal range. The Patriots are going to run the football. They're going to protect Drake May. He will air it down the field late. I think Keyshawn Boutte will have a big play to set them up in field goal range. The Patriots will win this thing, potentially at the buzzer, 23-20, and win their 7th Super Bowl in franchise history.
So it's interesting you say that because I think Seattle has a better overall skill position group when you look at Jackson Smith-Njigba, Rashid Shaheed, who I said was the biggest acquisition of the trade deadline, and I have proven, and that has proven to be correct.
You did. Well, I mean, Jalen Phillips was huge too. Let's not knock what he did in Philadelphia. You act like Mike Peck was just the wrong take. It wasn't the wrong take.
I didn't say it was the wrong take.
I underestimated the Shaheed move. You are correct on that, though I will argue he's been bigger on special teams, which I don't think either of us would have expected because he has not. He's had like one catch in these playoffs, and it was the deep ball down the sideline against the Rams. He has not been as impactful as a receiver.
Sure, but he doesn't necessarily need to catch the ball to be impactful as a receiver. The defense has to respect that he's more of the speed guy, and they can't just focus all their attention on Jackson Smith-Njigba.
But guess who can do that? The New England Patriots, because they have an all-great cornerback in Christian Gonzalez. And what they can do is they can put Gonzalez one-on-one with Jackson Smith-Njigba, or they could put Gonzalez one-on-one with Shaheed, and they can double team JSN. So I don't think JSN is going to have that big of a game. I think you have a solid game, but I don't think he's going to be the primary reason why Seattle moves the football down the field.
No, it's interesting you say that because when New England was reaching the Super Bowl with Brady and Belichick, what were they always trying to do defensively? Take away what you do well.
Yeah.
Whether it was running the ball or through passing the ball. So
I don't think Vrabel is Belichick defensively scheme. But I also think the most underrated unit in this game is the Patriots defensive line. I think Milton Williams, Christian Barmore, those two guys up front, and what they're able to do to stop the run. And I think if you get Sam Darnold in a 3rd and long, I think Seattle is going to have a hard time moving the football consistently. I'm not saying they're not going to be able to go down and move the ball and get points, but I think it's going to be really hard to every drive, the way they did against that Rams defense, which is the only way they won that game. I don't think Darnold is going to play a perfect game the way he did against the Rams.
Well, it depends on if New England tries to take away Kenneth Walker first, or if they try to take away Jackson Smith-Njigba first.
Well, here's the question. Why can't you do both?
It's hard to do two things at once like that
Uh,
defensively.
is it? Because if you're good in your run gap protection, I have two defensive tackles. So I can take away the run game. And by the way, because I have a corner, I don't have to blitz. I don't have to help. I don't have to help on JSN. So I can do both because I have the personnel to do both.
Even if you have, no, your point is valid. I'm not necessarily disagreeing, but if
Well,
you,
you are because you said you can't really take away both. In my opinion, you absolutely can because it
okay,
all comes down to the defensive line. If my defensive line wins, it doesn't matter how great of a passing attack or run game you have, I will shut you down.
okay, but here's the thing. If you are able to take away the run game, that's only half the battle. Yes, you force the opponent to become one-dimensional. I agree with you. But if you're a good enough quarterback, you're still going to be able to beat what the defense is throwing at you. I'm
Well,
not saying
are you? Well, are you? Because again, if I have to, it all comes down to the NFL and football is as simple as this. Can you block and can you beat man coverage? Because I can scheme up the greatest play call ever to get somebody open. If they can't beat man coverage off the line, I don't care how good of a receiving talent you are, or a quarterback, I cannot throw you the football. So what I'm saying is this is a scheme based game. And that's what I think it comes down to. Now, it's possible Quinn Kubiak completely out schemes, and I agree with this comment 100% from Grandizer, but it's possible Quinn Kubiak completely out schemes or the New England defensive coordinator, and Seattle rolls in this game. But I don't think it's going to happen like that, is all I'm saying.
and I could see that being the case. But here's the thing. We know all like the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator how vital they are to the operation, but there's some members of the coaching staff who don't necessarily get the attention. And it could be like their video coordinator who they were talking about this on the radio the other day. I forget the guy's name, but he would talk with Belichick and pull video like, hey, here's what they're doing. And Belichick would construct a game plan
No,
that took
there's a famous story, and I don't know if this is what you're talking about, of the video coordinator of the Patriots before this Super Bowl against Seattle 11 years ago, of them seeing the Seahawks line up in that formation that they threw the pass out of from the 1 yard line one time. And Belichick and them practiced it for 2 weeks. So Malcolm Butler knew exactly what the play was when he jumped in front of that ball and made the greatest defensive play in the history of the National Football League.
yeah. That's part of what I'm saying. But the other part is Belichick will see what the opponent is doing, and then he'll throw a completely different game plan at you than what you saw in film.
Well, but that was Belichick, the greatest defensive mind in the history of football. Do I think Quinn Kubiak is the greatest offensive mind, or do I think that Mike McDonald is the greatest defensive mind in the history of football? No, I do not.
I'm
I don't
talking
think.
about from the Patriots side, where they might be able to do that same thing.
Well, but Vrabel is not Belichick. That's my point.
I'm not trying to compare Vrabel to Belichick. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they might implement that same strategy, though. We know Vrabel in Tennessee, yes, he got fired, undeservedly so, but he usually had very solid defenses with the Titans. If you remember,
they were okay. They were not great. I think there's very nostalgia behind the old Titans team because people want to give Vrabel their flowers. He had one good year in Tennessee. That was it. They were the number one seed. It was a heroic ride with Ryan Tannehill, and then they lost to the Cincinnati Bengals in the divisional round, and that was it.
Pats are about offense, not defense. Seahawks are about defense, but their offense and special teams.
I disagree. I don't think either of these teams were on one side of the ball. I think both of these teams in the playoffs were the two most complete teams in football. By the way, you never said I have gone on record. I think it's 23-20 New England. What's your score prediction?
All right. I got Seattle winning this game. I'll say a little bit higher scoring than you, 31-23.
So you think, I mean, by that definition, it's definitely going to hit the over. You think both these teams are going to be able to move the ball?
I think Sam Darnold has found his confidence. I don't think Drake May's shoulder injury is that big of a deal.
No, I don't either. I'm giving more respect to these two defensive lines that I think are going to have a big impact on this game. I don't think neither of these two offenses are going to be able to move the ball that much.
You're not wrong, but when you have weapons like a Rashid Shaheed, Cooper Kupp, Jackson Smith-Njigba, you've got Stephon Diggs, Keyshawn Boutte, Ramondre Stevenson, Travion Henderson. There's enough around them to where I think they can move the ball.
Oh, they can move the ball. I'm just saying they're not going to be able to do it consistently up and down the field. But let's talk now about who this game means more to. And what I mean by this question personally is who needs to win the Super Bowl more, as in AKA who has the lesser chance to get back to this position in a year or so, or even more so. And I think this game means a lot more to Seattle. I think they need to win the game a lot more than New England. And the biggest reason for that is because we'll talk about it in our next topic. Their offensive coordinator is going to be the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. And I think that is a huge deal for Seattle, who I think they are one of these teams who, sort of like my Eagles last year, everything went right for them. They got the break. They made the trade. They've been great on special teams. They've been great on defense. They've been great on offense. You can make the argument that, they got the backwards pass on the 2-point conversion in that game week 16 against the Rams. That was the break they needed to go from the number one, from maybe the 6 seed to the 1 seed. You can make the argument San Francisco beating Philadelphia and then having to go from playing the Rams in the divisional round to playing San Francisco in the divisional round. That's a break. So I think everything is going right for this team. Now, I think a lot of things have went right for New England as well. But Josh McDaniel is going to still be there. Drake May is on his rookie contract. They can load up. They can go out. They can get more players. They can spend more in free agency because they're not paying Drake May. Seattle is paying Sam Darnold. And I don't believe Kenneth Walker. I don't know if they're going to pay him. I'm not sure if he's going to be back. So they are going to have to make some decisions, I think, all the way after this game. And I'm not sure. Sam Darnold has been great the last couple of years. But if they do not find an offensive coordinator that's as good or runs the same system as Clint Kubiak, we may not see the same Sam Darnold next year, which is why I'm saying this game means so much more to Seattle than it does New England.
I'm actually going to say it is New England because Drake May, for much of the year, was in MVP conversation alongside Matt Stafford. I do think Stafford is ultimately going to win it, but Drake May has rightfully been in the conversation. Vrabel has come in and completely turned this team around. Yes, Buffalo has problems, but I don't think they're going anywhere. The Chargers are still going to be a
Wait a minute. You have been telling me for the last month the Buffalo Bills Super Bowl window is closed. So now all of a sudden, Buffalo's not going anywhere.
Meaning they'll still be in the mix for the playoffs. They just won't be able to get over the hump.
Okay, but, I mean, that is something in New England's way, but as I've told you many times, as long as you have Josh Allen, you are a perennial Super Bowl contender.
So, I'm still going to put Buffalo in the conversation, even though I don't believe they are Super Bowl contenders anymore. I love the hire of Jussie Minter in Baltimore. I think the Ravens will be back. You've got Liam Cohen in the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think this was just a one-year thing for them. we'll see what the Tennessee Titans can do. I think Houston's going to be back. So I just think in the AFC, there's a lot more teams for New England to deal with.
Okay, by the way, you haven't even mentioned Kansas City, Denver, the
Yeah,
Chargers. Can I
yeah,
mention you, though, in the NFC? Because I think the Eagles are going to be good again. I think the Giants are going to be legitimate, and they're going to be a playoff team, if not near a playoff team, the way I thought New England was going to be. I think the Commanders with the LD Jane Daniels are a problem. We know what the Niners have done the last couple of years. As long as Matthew Stafford's back, we know what the Rams are going to be. We already know the Lions, Packers, Bears in the NFC North. Oh, they were contenders this year. Oh, and by the way, the Vikings won 9 games this year without having a quarterback, arguably, in JJ McCarthy. And then Atlanta, we both think has gotten better. We both like what we saw to Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers. I really like what I saw to Tyler Shuck and the New Orleans Saints. I think the Saints may take a legitimate jump next year. So I agree with you. The AFC's gotten better, and I think it will be better next year, but so will the NFC.
yes, but here's the thing. I think you have more established teams already in the NFC. A lot of them that you mentioned, like Green Bay, Detroit, the Rams, San Francisco, Philadelphia. A lot of the teams in the AFC are just starting to find their footing, like a Jacksonville, for example. I would even put the Chargers in the mix for that.
Chargers have been in the playoffs the last 3 years. That they have their footing.
Fair. Denver, to a certain extent, I would say is just starting to.
Denver's been in there the last 2 years. This year they started to find their footing. Next year they'll be potentially really good.
So that's what I'm saying. Like,
but I'm arguing about I can make the argument about Jacksonville, the same argument I can make about Chicago in the NFC. I can make the same argument you made about the Chargers with the Packers in the NFC.
Again, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you.
But your point that the AFC is a lot harder to go for than the NFC, I don't agree with that.
Okay. And I think that's because you have more established teams already in the NFC.
Whereas the bottom line is, and granddad, I don't know where this comment came from, because the Jets are going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. The Jets are not getting better. I don't know where you thought that from. If you want to debate it on my show, we can debate it. The Jets, and I believe the Browns, are tanking for Arch Manning. So we know who the bad teams are going to be next year. By the way, I'll give you this. I think the Raiders are going to be a very feisty team next year. They may be 4th place, and they may be the best 4th place team in the AFC. So what we are seeing here is sort of a revolution in the NFL where I think there's going to be very bad at the bottom and good to very good at the top. It's almost NBA-esque.
I think you're going to start to see some clear separations. But in terms of...
Here's my thing, though. Did we see a clear separation this year? Right? We talked about this is the most wide open playoff that we have seen in our lifetime. Some people said Seattle separated, the Rams separated from everybody else. But I really did feel like it was based off the game. It was based off the matchup. Hell, I picked the Patriots outside of the Bronco game to lose against the Chargers and to lose against the Texans, and they're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but there's another aspect of this question that I want to get to. Because, yes, like the question on the screen says, who needs to win the game more, Patriots or Seahawks? But I want to focus on the quarterbacks in this particular case, Drake May and Sam Darnold. And to me, I think it's Sam Darnold that needs to win more. Yes,
that I 100% agree with.
Yes, they were both the number 3 overall pick in their respective drafts, but Drake May is only in his 2nd or 3rd season. But you look at Sam Darnold. He was drafted by the Jets. Didn't work out. You know, it was against the Patriots on Monday Night Football that he said, I was seeing ghosts. So that's a factor that I don't think anybody is talking about in this game. It doesn't work out with the Jets. He gets traded to Carolina, doesn't work out there. He moves on to San Francisco, and he was in a backup role, but he still got to work with Kyle Shanahan. Then he goes to Minnesota, and we know what happened with the Vikings. And now he's done what he's done with Seattle. So, and on top of that, he is the first quarterback from that legendary class of 2018 that also included Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen to reach the Super Bowl. It wasn't the two-time MVP Lamar. It wasn't the reigning MVP Josh Allen. It wasn't Baker Mayfield, who was written off in Cleveland and has completely resuscitated his career in Tampa Bay. It's Sam Darnold.
Yeah, it just seems wrong, doesn't it? As I said last week.
Yeah.
But I mean, facts are the facts. But I agree with you. But here's my thing. I think that Quinn Kubiak leaving to go to Vegas is going to have a big effect. I don't think it's going to have a big effect on this game at all. I think Quinn is focused on this game. I don't see an issue there really at all. I think it's going to affect Seattle moving forward a lot. And I think it's going to affect Sam Darnold potentially a lot, which is why I agree with you. Sam Darnold needs this game way more than Drake May because, as I just said, if they don't get the right guy, now they may find somebody off this tree and he may be a good OC. But Mike McDonald's first OC in Seattle, I think it was Ryan Grubb, if I'm correct, last year with Geno Smith. He went back to college because he wasn't good enough. So if Mike McDonald does not find the right offensive coordinator, Seattle could go back to winning 7-8 games next year.
Yeah. And you say you don't think it'll have an effect on Seattle in this game? I actually do. Because, yes, he's having to prep for the Super Bowl, but he's also trying to get his staff together and think about what he has to do with the Raiders. So that's, like I said earlier, multitasking. It's good sometimes, not all the time, though.
Well, I think it affects some people differently. You know, Kyle Shanahan famously was going to become the head coach of the Niners, blew a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots 9 years ago. Jonathan Gannon was up 24-14 in the Super Bowl with my Eagles, and we're going to Arizona. Blew the game away. Kellen Moore, I think, was rumored to potentially stay in New Orleans, but it wasn't official yet. In terms of a hire until after the Super Bowl, he ended up going. Shane Steichen, Super Bowl 57 for me. He was already rumored to go to the Colts, and the Eagles' offense was obviously great. So I worry about this actually more in the divisional round when they're going through the interviews and doing all that during the week. But now that sort of this has been official and you've had 2 weeks to prepare, I don't think it matters as much in the Super Bowl as it does earlier in the playoffs.
See, I understand what you're saying, but I just feel like when you're prepping for the biggest game of the season and also trying to think about what am I going to do with once I get to Vegas.
Well, are we sure he's thinking about that right now? I think all he's thinking about is how can I win this game? Because you only have one game left. That's it. It's not like you have 2 or 3 games left. This is all you think about as a coach or a player your whole life. You dream about this moment, this game. And guess what? His father is a legendary coach who's been in a Super Bowl and won it in Gary Kubiak. You don't think he's bounced ideas off his father, and you don't think his father hasn't told him just focus on this game, get the job done, get Sam Darnold a Super Bowl, and then see what happens in Vegas?
I actually hadn't even thought about that, to be honest with you. But it's ironic that you bring that up because the Broncos won Super Bowl 50 with Kubiak as their head coach, as you mentioned. Where was that Super Bowl played?
In Santa Clara. And by the way, Gary Kubiak was a first-year head coach. He's one of I believe, 3 or 4 head coaches. I saw the graphic today. I think he's one of 4 head coaches to win the Super Bowl in his first year. If the Patriots win the Super Bowl, Mike Vrabel would join that list.
Yeah. But again, I have to say this. Vrabel has done an outstanding job in New England. I think if he wins this, he would be the first player coach to win the Super Bowl for the same organization, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, that could, well, no, because Doug Peterson did it. He played for the Eagles in 1999 and then came back and won them a Super Bowl.
But did Philadelphia win the Super Bowl in 1999?
Oh, I see what you're saying. To play in a Super Bowl with the same team and then win it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You might be right. I'm sorry, I misinterpreted what you were saying there.
Because Vrabel won the Super Bowl with the Patriots as a player, and if he wins, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he would be the first person to both win the Super Bowl as a player and as a coach.
You know what? I'm going to say something, because if you remember, at the start of, well, it would have been this year. It would have been at the start of January 2025 when everybody was going through the NFL coaching cycle. I had said when New England fired Gerard Mayo and there was rumors about Mike Vrabel becoming their head coach, I said I would not do it. I said I would go after Ben Johnson. I said put all the Belichick era in the trash, in the garbage. It's gone. You need to move on. You need to get innovative. You need to get a young offensive mind. You need to get away from this defense wins championships mantra and go with a young offensive mind. Turns out the New England Patriots formula to win is just have a tough defensive minded head coach from the Northeast with a quarterback who is humble, who is very good, who doesn't care about outside noise, and for the Patriots to be underdogs, and for the people in Northeast Massachusetts to say, we don't give a single F what anybody else thinks of us. And that is the New England culture. And I was wrong on that. I guess every team has its culture. You know, some teams are flashy, like a California team. New England is just old, tough, rugged defensive mind. We're going to beat you up. We're going to slap you in the face, and you are going to like it.
And, you know, we made our picks earlier. I had Seattle winning. But I will say this, based on what you're saying. If New England wins this game, I don't think Drake May is going to be Super Bowl MVP.
I agree with you 100%. I actually think this may shock you, Josh. If the Patriots win this game, I think the MVP of the game will be Milton Williams.
That wouldn't be too crazy because Von Miller won Super Bowl MVP in Super Bowl 50. But
I think he's going to have a monster game. I have him getting at least 1 sack. He may get 2. And I think his Super Bowl experience helps this very young Patriots team. Even though the coaches have been to the Super Bowl, not a lot of players have.
I could see Stephon Diggs winning Super Bowl MVP, possibly.
See, I don't think he's going to get a lot of yards because I don't think this is a throwing game for Drake May. I think this could be a situation where Drake May has as many rushing yards as he does passing yards.
It's interesting you say rushing because if New England wins the Super Bowl, I think Super Bowl MVP in that case would be either Ramondre Stevenson or Travion Henderson.
And I can see that too. I mean, I do have Ramondre Stevenson getting into the end zone because I do think they get down on the 1 yard line and they pound it in at some point.
And think about this storyline for a second. Cooper Kupp won Super Bowl MVP for the Rams in 2021 against the Bengals. Now he could very well win Super Bowl MVP. Think about that for a second.
He could, though. He has not had a real big game in Seattle. It would be a real surprise if he had a big game to me.
No, that's fair. But remember, if I remember correctly, it's the fans that decide who wins Super Bowl MVP.
Which is just, I'm sorry, it's wrong and it's total BS. And it will probably go to a quarterback for that reason.